He kōna ipurangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
This episode is dedicated to friends and family who have left us far too early. When I was around 16 years old, my brother called me at home one night from a telephone box in Point Chevalier. He was acting very strange and was talking in throttled like rasps, which I couldn't understand until I heard the words, "Jan, help me, I need a lift," and then he hung up. I didn't know what had happened to him, but he didn't sound like he was in a very good state, so I put an iron bar in the boot of my car and raced along Auckland's northwestern motorway to go and find him. No, I have no idea why I took an iron bar, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. Turns out he had drunk too many beers and thrown up all over his bag, so the driver of his bus had kicked him off and he had no way of getting home. At that time he was studying at Auckland University, and he told me during the ride back to our place that he wanted to try something different, but he didn't know what. Sometime later he was at Cook Street Market, which is where the Aotea Centre is now, and started talking to a woman who was then called Vivian Pivac. She told him she was studying at Otago University and had a spare room in her flat that he could rent. This would mean moving to Dunedin. He took up the offer and left home soon after, and I missed my brother very much. When he invited me down to stay at his flat during the school holidays, I fell in love with Dunedin. Even the rats in the walls seemed exciting. Vivian's sister was also staying with her, so it was then that I met my good friend Diane Pivac. Diane and I both decided that there was no way we were going to do anything other than enroll at Otago University the following year, so we did. My brother used to take me surfing out at Piha in Karikari when he was still at school, and I was always following him around. When he formed a band called Working with Walt, he asked me to play keys. Even though I was incredibly freaked out about being on stage, I did it because I knew my brother would always look out for me. The band went through a few lineups before I joined, but when I was in the band, the players were Mark Peterson, David Wood, Kevin Fielding, and of course my brother Rob. When David, Mark and Kevin decided to move from Auckland to Dunedin to play music, we headed down together in a yellow Toyota van which was stuffed full of band gear and bodies. It was so heavily laden when we were going down steep hills, the brakes didn't work so well, and the best way to describe it was that we were driving on ice. It was probably incredibly dangerous and a little stupid, but we didn't worry because we were young and we were invincible. Here it comes, come on. It was the summer of 1990 and Cassandra's Ears went on tour with the Straight Jacket Fits. An odd combination, I know, but it was a seriously fun time and we covered a lot of ground. I called Debbie Gibbs, who managed the Straight Jacket Fits, and said, how about we team up for a summer tour around the upper North Island of New Zealand? And we did. We toured to several beach locations, however this story is about the Colville Show, or rather the Colville No-Show. We were on our way to Colville, which included a drive along a very erratic coastal road which winds its way up the Coromandel Peninsula. Along the coast past Thames, I don't know how 3 cars and 1 van with the sound equipment didn't manage to see the signs that said road closed, danger. But we didn't and just ploughed on through. I remember a scene where a sheep was chewing grass on a 4x4 metre island of dirt, which had slipped down the hill and seemed to have slithered across the road and landed on the beachfront. It was slightly submerged in water and was a very surreal thing to see. Along the way we came across some slips that had covered the road. We simply drove over them. We continued to chat and laugh and think the whole thing was completely normal. Yes, it was raining. A lot. But hey, nothing was going to stop us from getting to the gig. The drive from Thames to Colville is about 90 minutes, and at that time it poured incessantly. When we arrived at the hall, there was no one around. We got out of the van and loaded our gear in. There was still no one around. One of the locals came by and said, "How the hell did you get here? The roads are closed and there is a flood warning." We scratched our heads and said, "Really?" So there we were in Colville with our gear safely in the hall, and it is slowly dawning on us that it might be a bit of a slow night. Along came the organiser of the event. He told us they were very surprised we had arrived at all, but seeing as we were there, we may as well do the show, as a few locals might make it to town. All of us in the touring party, I think about 15 in all, took our gear and our sleeping bags to the place where we were dossing and went back to the hall. The rain kept on pouring incessantly. We did a sound check and prepared for the arrival of the punters. But no one came, not one person. There was a cafe dairy next door. One of the ladies who worked there popped in to tell us that there was a concern that the river flowing behind the hall could burst its banks and that the roads around were flooded and we couldn't leave. Sure enough, we walked outside to our cars and on either side there was water. We weren't going anywhere, and we had the threat of a river bursting its banks as well. It was quite unreal, and as it got dark, we couldn't tell any more if we were in any real danger, and we just had to wait. All we had with us was our musical equipment and 2 dog blankets, and the only thing to do was sit in that hall on wooden trestles and wait. All night. And it was cold. The dogs slept well, though. The floodwater subsided in the morning, so we managed to leave Colville unscathed and head to Coromandel Township to play our next show. We never got to play Colville, and as we drove back to Thames, we finally noticed those big red signs that said, "Stop, road closed." There goes the promise of youth, of handsome and might. Well, there it goes, faster than light. When you are growing up, sometimes it seems that life is totally random, and at other times it all seems like it is made up of a perfect set of coincidences. The light-spirited fearlessness, which is part of the promise of youth, is something we should fight to retain, because out of these courageous dreams we forge our realities. And I have always really liked the saying, "Fortune favours the brave." And show such promise, and so it goes on, round and round, till the stories get old, and they make no sound, and the reasons why, and the reasons because. This episode of Sportsman of the Year was written and performed by me, Jan Halregal. Justin Gregory was the producer and the engineer was Jana Witter. Tim Watkin is the executive producer. You can get the book Sportsman of the Year, A Suburban Philosophy, which comes with a high-resolution download, or you can get the CD too, at my website janhalregal.com or at record stores and bookshops who are stocking Sportsman of the Year. Ask them for it. You can subscribe to Sportsman of the Year at Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Radio Public, and of course rnz.co.nz/series. Please give us a rating. More people find out about us that way. Thanks for listening. And show such promise, and so it goes.